Okay, in this video, we're going to show you real quick here how to create a creator calendar that's connected to your CRM. So the CRM calendar that's built in is kind of terrible. I mean, it functions, but it's not great. So if I look at this, if you like monochrome, it's fantastic because it doesn't show you any difference. You can't put any tags or colorization or anything to this. If you look back at the day again, I think it was pretty good because it does show your tasks right here. It does show a calendar view and you could have your agenda for the day. But what we're doing, and again, here you can see here's some tasks that are put in here, but the calendar, we're able to add some colorization to it. So I create a new web tab. We've got it for the calendar. I can click on this, you give details, you can go to that record and look at what you have on the calendar as a task. The other thing with the calendar is you can see it's color coded. The meetings are green, the tasks are orange. That's just a beginning piece of it. So what we're doing is, if I click on a date, let's say the 23rd of next week, and I say, let's do a meeting for a contact, it's going to pull up a contact record. I can say new meeting, put in a description, and we'll put in what the time is for next week. Okay, do that. We'll do this 5 and submit. I go back to the calendar and you'll see that there's a new meeting here for that particular record. And if I go to that record, you'd be able to see that as well. So this is through Creator, and that's what we're going to show you here. So again, real quick, who I am, I'm David Edkins. I am the owner of the company called the Edkins Group, and what we've worked on for over 15 years at this point is helping hundreds of companies increase their valuation, increase their profits by using systems better, namely Zoho One as the platform. We found after having been a Salesforce implementation partner for years, Zoho offers so much, but it's also a best kept secret out there. So what we're going to cover in this video will be helpful for you. There's some links in the description below. If you don't have Zoho One, recommend to get it. Start a trial for free, 30 days. If you need some advisory, some help, some Zoho support, if you already have it, click on the Edkins Group link down there so we can start working together. There's also Zoho Academy, which is an online academy to help empower you to learn more about Zoho and go deeper, kind of like what this video is going to do. Anyways, here we go. First, you'll need Creator, Zoho Creator. It's a what they call low-code app builder. So it is part of Zoho One. So assuming you have Zoho One, you can add it to it if you don't already have it as an app added to your Zoho One. We're going to show you a couple ways you can add it. If you're not familiar with what Zoho One is, it is a package, a bundle of the over 50, probably 55 plus different apps that Zoho has at an enterprise level for only $45 a month currently as I'm recording this. So it's a tremendous value. If you're not familiar with it, go to the link below. You can get a free trial for 30 days. We can extend it for 60 days, but I'll continue on here. Okay, one way you can add it is by going to your Zoho One dashboard. So just go to one.zoho.com, as you can see here. It did the rest of this just because that's the account that we're with. And then go over here to this little sprocket. That's your setting, or the admin panel, as it used to be called. In a moment here, it'll pull up and you've got applications. So click on applications and you'll see in the list of applications here, we do not have one called Creator, which would be like what right here. And then we can add the application. So you can see it's right here, or if you didn't see it on the list, you can start typing it, Creator, and you can add it this way. Another way is any of the apps that Zoho has, it has a subdomain. A subdomain is like where it has Zoho.com here. One, which is one.zoho.com, that's the subdomain. So we could put in creator.zoho.com. So for any of their apps, CRM, it would be crm.zoho.com. Okay, so you can see here, since it hasn't been added, this is a quick way you can do it, creator.zoho.com. It redirects you to here, and it says, oh, do you want to add Creator to your existing Zoho One account? And you just say, yeah, it's easy. You just go here, add Creator. So we're adding it, basically takes you back to what you just saw. And you can see, all right, it's already been added and we have a user. Let's go ahead and just move on. That's it. So now you don't see it in the list here because we've already added it. Actually, it should be here. No, I think because we're adding applications. That's why. Okay, if I close out of this, you'd see Creator is now added in the list. Okay, next thing we now need to do is go into Creator. Loading it. Okay, so now we're going to create a solution. Create a solution. We're just going to go ahead and create it from scratch. We're going to call it calendar. Enabling environment. This is where you want to go through an official process of creating like a development area that moves it into staging, that moves it into the actual live and production. We may enable that later, but for the time being, we'll just skip this step because it adds like formality. If you're actually a developer and you're developing apps, you probably want to enable the environment. Otherwise, for this, we're just going to keep it simple and not do that. Okay. Because we kept it simple, it would have taken you to a different page if you hadn't enabled that environment, and you would have to then go into that environment as an edit within development. So we're not going to do that. Thank goodness it just real quick here gets right into this. So we're going to create a new form. All we need is a form is a table of information. So we're going to call this calendar item. So they call it a form, and I think it's because you're entering information in as a form. So we're going to add some fields here, just keep it simple. We're going to say this is the subject. Let's do a drop down as well. We're going to pick what kind, the type. What type of entry is this on the calendar? And we're going to go over here and create two types, a task and a meeting. So if you were to mirror what's in the CRM, you would add another one, and that would be call. We're not covering that in this. Who knows? I might come back and update and put calls in there as well, but for right now, we're just going to do tasks and meetings. Okay, so we're going to say the type is that, the subject is this. We're going to add a date, so this is going to be a due date. A due date for a task, and then for meetings, you'd have a date time. So you'd have a day that you're going to do this and a time you're going to do it. So we'll call this the start time. And you'll see the initial value. You could put in like right now. We're not going to do that. We're going to go down here and look at minutes. Just keep it easy and go 15-minute intervals. I mean, you could do half an hour as well, but that way you're not looking at every single minute. And then show seconds. Probably don't need that. Let's get rid of that. Okay, now we're going to add another one. That's going to be the end time. Oop. And again, go down here and go 15 minutes and remove the seconds. I mean, you can see some other options here too. Allowed hours, allowed days. So you can say, oh, we never do anything on Sunday or Saturday, but who cares about that right now? Let's take out the initial value, and this one might have done it as well. Initial value. So we don't want to take, that's today's date, not have that. Okay, so we've got the subject. Oh, we probably want to put in a description. All right, so we've got the type, we've got the subject, description, due date, start time, end time. Let's do, we're going to add another field here. We're not going to use it just yet, but this is going to be the CRM ID. That way, when we add it to the CRM, it will come back with that CRM ID. So that way, if you ever move something on the calendar, let's say you move from today to next week, it will go out to the CRM and update that as well. So let's add that. And then we might as well, since we're here, add the integration. Let's do this first. I'm going to show you. Let's do a radio button. So a radio button is a selection. And we're going to say, this is going to be, is it CRM lead or contact? And you'll see why I'm doing this. It's going to be for a lead, contact. All right, so CRM lead or contact. Now we're going to add the fields, the integration fields for a lead. So service is going to be CRM. Let's add a data source real quick. Zoho CRM, let's authorize it. Okay. module, we're going to go leads, right? Leads, and we'll call it Z leads. And we're going to select a field. We'll just do first name. And you'll see over here we've got first name that'll show up, and we want to probably put the last name as well. Last name, got it. Okay, and probably wouldn't hurt to put an email just in case you've got two people with the same first and last name, so it'll show up. Okay, so now we'll call this lead. All right, and now we're going to add another one, which is going to be the contact. So because they're two different modules, we have to put two different fields here. So Zoho CRM data source is going to, actually I want a different one. Let's do this, and the module is going to be, what did I say? Oh, contacts. Okay, now it's the contacts, and now we're going to pick same thing, first name, last name. So add last name. Oh, not description. We're going to do email. Okay. And we're going to name this one contact. All right. So right now what this would do is if you go to the form, it's going to add a record to the creator table of information. We're going to clean this up a little bit so it doesn't show all these fields. We're going to do some hiding and showing. We'll do that next. And then we'll do a connection to the CRM where we're going to add a record there, and then we're going to do an update to it as well. So I'm going to press pause for a second. Okay, we are going to continue here. All right, so we've got this. Let's go ahead and put in some of the magic here. Let's look at what it looks like currently. Okay, so if I were to look at this form, here's what it looks like. It has everything listed in it. Actually, I'm going to go change this lead contact so it's next to each other. It looks a little cleaner. Edit this application. You can see I'm in this radio here, and I scroll down. You'll see that it says, wait, which one? This one here. Scroll down, and you'll see it says one column here, and I can change it to two columns, so they'll be next to each other. Looks a little better. See? Lead contact. All right, now let's go ahead and do some workflows here. What we're going to do is I'm going to make it so that it'll hide the due date, start time, end time. I'll leave the CRM ID right now. Actually, I'll get rid of that as well. And what else do we? And lead contact. So we're going to remove those so it's hidden as soon as the form comes up, just to clean it up a little bit. So again, to refresh your memory, this is what the form looks like currently with everything showing. Let's go ahead and change that. So we are going to say when created. We're going to do field rules, hide. And now it's going to allow us to go pick the fields. We're going to hide fields, and we're going to pick the CRM ID. We're going to pick the contact. We're going to pick due date, end time, lead, start time. I think everything else is good. That's good. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so let's save it. And we're going to go back and go look at that form again. You can see it looks a lot cleaner. Task meeting, it only shows if you want to do that. Now we're going to add some workflows that says, okay, if you pick lead, it's going to show the lead information. Or let's do this first. If you pick task, it's going to show the due date. If you pick meeting, it's going to show the start and end time. Let's do that first. All right, new workflow. We're going to say on created, user input of a field, and we're going to say the type. Show type fields. Okay, so we're going to put a new action in. This one's going to be pretty easy. Show input due date. You really don't need to put the input, but it's just probably good practice. Okay, we'll save that. Put new input down here. So we're going to show input start time, show input end time. All right, and up here now we're going to put a condition. So if the type equals task, show the due date. If the type equals meeting, show those two. Okay, done. Access the application. I select task, due date shows up. I select meeting. Now both of those show up. So you may not want that. So if you accidentally put task and then you put meeting, and you can see now you've got everything there. So let's go back and change that. Change that workflow. This, we are going to update this. So even if it's already hidden, we're going to hide start time and hide end time. Okay. Update that. Cancel. Come down here. And we're going to hide the due date. Okay, so we're going to show those and hide that. All right, so let's see how this looks. Show task, there's the due date. Show meeting, swapped out with start end time. Task only shows that. Okay, we got that down. Check that box. Okay, next, let's go ahead and do the lead and contact and show that field. So now we're going to say new workflow. When it's created, input of a field. This time it's going to be a lead or contact. Show lead contact. So just like you saw before, it's going to be show lead. I mean, you could do something called if-thens. If this, then that. But this is probably an easier way to do it. Show contact. We should probably do the opposite again too, right? If you accidentally pick the other one, have it swap back. So let's do that here too. Hide contact. All right, so now we got that. So up here, you know this probably, right? The condition is going to be if the lead or contact equals lead, show this one. If the lead or contact equals contact, show this one. Okay, now let's take a look at that. All right, we've got task, show that. Now it's going to have a due date. If I pick lead, shows the lead. If I pick contact, it's going to show contacts. So you can see how this helps too. So if somebody had the same name, you can actually see their email address and know who you're picking. So lead swaps out lead, contact shows contact. Okay, I'm going to put on pause real quick and come back. Next, we're actually going to create the calendar. So let's go edit again. We're going to come up here in the plus sign and we're going to create a report. And we're going to use the calendar option. And we're just going to say it's the calendar item. Event title, we are going to use the subject. And you can see here, event starts on start time and it ends on end time. And we'll just call it calendar. All right, so we've got a calendar now. So this calendar items is just a standard. It just lists out the calendar items. So let's go ahead and create one real quick. We're just going to call it task, testing, description, and the due date is going to be today. So now if we go to calendar, that's right. Okay, so I'm glad I did that. All right, so we have due date, we have start time and end time. So if you remember, if you rewind just a little bit, we just created this calendar. But what shows up on the calendar is not a due date. It's the start time and the end time. Well, that's not part of a task, right? Because there's really no start and end time on a task. It's just if you wanted to put a due date, you'd put a due date of a date. Okay, so we're going to update the workflow so that anytime a new record is added, let's say if it's a task, we're going to automatically make the start time and end time the same as the due date. So it'll show up on the calendar. And then the same, probably don't need it the opposite, because if it's a start end time for a meeting, then it's going to show up on the calendar anyways. So on the if it's a task, so now we're going to say on form submission, update start, here we go, and based on due date. Okay, so new action, we're going to do a little deluge here, and we're going to say input of start time equals input of due date, and the input of end time equals input of due date. That way it populates those two with at least the date, and it's going to just have probably midnight of that date is going to show up. Okay, and we're going to make this again, so your condition here is what type is it. We're going to only do this when the type equals task. All right, so that's done. Now access the application. We're going to go here to all calendar items just so you can see here's that one we added, and you can see that the due date is here and the start time and end time are blank. I'm going to go ahead and just click that and delete it. No point in having that in there. All right, calendar, nothing on the calendar. If I click on the date, let's say today, I click on that and I select task, test, and we'll put due date today and submit. And you can see now it shows up. If I go to all calendar items, you'll see 17th, that's what we put in, but it also now added the start and end time. So it shows up on the calendar. Awesome. So we got that part done. Now currently, this is just sitting in this Creator app. We don't have anything tied over to the CRM, so we're going to do that next. Now we're going to add the CRM components. How do we get this to where a new entry here that's tied to either a lead or a contact is going to add it to the CRM? So let's edit this application. Let's go ahead and create a new workflow. So we have on this created a successful form submission. So we could just add on to this. So if it's a task, then we can add more to this deluge script. // this is just on creation. So we are going to add to CRM. Okay. First, we probably want to check to see if there's a lead or a contact in this record, because maybe for whatever reason you don't want that. It's not really tied to anybody in particular. So this is where we're gonna do one of those if-thens. So if input lead is not equal to blank, or input contact is not equal to blank, then we are going to create this record for either the lead or the contact. Okay, now we're going to add this record. We're going to start with creating a new map. Okay, a map is what it contains information, like you're putting information into a field. So this put here literally is like I'm putting it in that field. This would be the field name that is in this is going to be tasks, right? Because this type is task. So the task, the field is subject. Now, if you want to double check that, here's how you do it. Go into the CRM, go into the setup area and go into APIs and SDKs and go up here to API names. And we're in tasks right now. That's what we're going to add it to. Here's what are called API names. So this is the deluge code talking between systems. And so you can see here, subject is actually called subject. So that's what it's called. Go back over here, subject. So that's where we're going to put the information into. And what are we grabbing? We're grabbing the input.subject field, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. Now we're going to put in description, input description, semicolon, and go back here again. You can say, all right, description. Yep, that's description. You can see due date is going to be due date. So we'll do that. mp.put is due date, input due date. And then this is where we're going to decide it's a lead or a contact. Now, leads and contacts are treated differently in the APIs of the CRM. Leads are considered a who ID, and a contact is considered a what ID. Now, when you use a what ID, you actually have to do another field in here which is not explained anywhere. At least it's probably in the bowels of Zoho references somewhere. But came across a post on the forum that shows you what to add, and it's this little thing here. So SE module, this would be contacts, and then the what ID. So I'll show you how this looks. Okay, so we're going to do lead first. So we're going to say if input lead is not empty, then we're going to do this. So we're going to add MP put who ID. Let's make sure that's what it looks like. Who ID, yep. Who, yep, ID. I mean, you could always do this too. Double tap on that, copy, come up here, and put it in. Make sure it's right. Okay, next we're going to say input lead. So if the lead is not, that lead field is not blank, meaning it has something in it, then you're going to put the who ID. If input contact is not empty, then you're going to put MP put this thing here, SE module, here, and we are going to put, that is going to be contacts, MP put, what do we put, what ID, right, what ID, that is correct. Okay, what ID, and then that's going to be the input contact. Okay, so we're going to say, so it's going to, let me put an else if here, else if. It's possible if I did an if, this wouldn't work, but if I do else if, so it's going to look at this and then say else if that's not true, then check this one. If that's not blank, then this. But we can already see we have, if neither one of those, if there's something in one of those, then it's going to run through this. Okay, so I think lastly what we're going to do is we're just going to say RESP. Now I use this MP and I use this RESP. If you've looked at Zoho reference material, they always seem to use those. That's just kind of like their shorthand for a map and a response. So RESP is response. Okay, so we're going to go Zoho CRM, create record. We're going to create it in tasks. And the map is going to be the MP and that. And we're going to say info RESP. So we do this info RESP to get feedback that it was added. And so you'll see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and try it out. Let's see how this works, if I did it right. All right, so let's go access application. Let's go back to tasks. There's going to be some sample ones. I think these are all pretty much sample. Let's go here and we're going to say, let's do a task for a lead. We're going to pick, yeah, let's do Felix. Okay, testing for Felix. Test. And we're going to set it for, did I do due date? I think I did. Let's do it for today. Why not? And so submitting this, we'll come back with log details. Oh, and it says it doesn't like the who ID. Now that's interesting. Okay. Let's look at that. It could be because, no, go into workflow. Let's look at this real quick. What do I have in there? Who ID is the input lead. Now it could be that we'll have to make it what's called too long, which is an actual integer representative of that ID. So let's take a look and see if that's what we need to do. I'm going to test that first and we'll come back to it. Okay, let's come back. Let's see what happens. Task, lead. I mean, that should work, so that'll be funny because I'll have to put on pause and figure out what the heck happened. Okay, testing. Put it for next Wednesday, submit. It does not like that. Why is that? Okay, hold on a sec. I've got to put on pause. This is funny. You do a demonstration. I try to do this without any cuts, and this happens. Okay, so hold up. Hold tight. Okay, so swear to God, I just did this yesterday, and I swear I used the Who ID. Okay, I don't know why that didn't work, but this looks like it went through just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and show this. This looks different than the error that you just, or the log that you just saw moments ago. But let's go ahead and show you. So this is what I changed. Let's look at the workflow. So maybe this is the best practice, is don't use the Who ID. So all I did is I said, okay, just like we did with contacts, we had what ID and just say the module is contacts. I did the module's leads and what ID, and that seemed to work. So this, before I had Who ID, swear to God, I did it yesterday, worked fine for another client. Anyways, let's go ahead and update, cancel. Now I can show you that it works. Access the application, task, we'll pick a lead, this lead, testing, test description, and we'll set it for next Wednesday. Submit. And now you can see log details. Now this log details you don't want on here, but it allows you to test it. And it shows here's the, when it says modified time, that means that it actually did it. And then I had on here the ID too, just make sure that that's what we're capturing. So we'll take both of those out, but just let's go over here to tasks so you can see that it's been added. And here it is. Testing. This is in the CRM now, May 22nd, and it's tied to that particular record. So if I go into Chow's record activities, you'll see there's that testing. Okay, so that worked. Success. Let's test it for a meeting as well. We'll pick that same person. Testing meeting. We'll set it for the 21st. 12:30 is fine. 21st, and we'll say let's move it up an hour. Here's something I'll show you too. So it went up to military time, 12 to 13. That's fine. We'll go ahead and submit this. And let's, I don't have a log on that one because if we look at the edit, so it didn't show up because in my workflow, I only had, well, that's interesting. Okay, so it should have actually, well, it's not going to show the lead. I should have still shown a response. So let's see what's going on there. Oh, create a record task. Oh, only because it's task. That's right. So it's not going to create something because we have this only for task. So let's go ahead and create this for a meeting. This is good practice. Thanks for sticking around here. Okay, add to CRM. We're going to take this and we're going to add the action here. So if it's a meeting, it looks a little different in that the subject is actually called, I think it's called event title. Again, let's go ahead and look at the APIs. And APIs here, go to APIs here, and we're going to go into meetings. And subject, they don't, oh, title, here it is, event, it's title, and it is event title. Okay, so it's not called subject, it's called event title. There is no due date, there is a start date, right? If we look at this, oh, nope, it's start date time. So this is where it's good to probably review this to make sure you're grabbing the right one. There we go. Let's copy this. And you'll notice we probably have to input, change the, so here's something I've got to do. I've got to show you when you are doing these date times, this is really important, is it's not gonna work. If you're taking information from Creator and you're putting it into the CRM, the date time, even though you think it's still date time, why don't they talk to each other? You have to convert it to a certain type of date time format before it'll be accepted into CRM. So where we find that, I'm just going to go ahead and put, no, we're going to put start time, which is in a field we have. We're going to create something called start time equals nothing and end time equals nothing. Like that. Okay, and start time, this is going to be end, and we're going to call this end time. All right, so let's save this real quick. Oh, it's not going to let me do it, of course. You let me do it now? Yeah, okay. So we'll come back to that one. let's look at the way that field looked in calendar item start time. So this, actually it may not be this field. Does it show it here? Yep, right here. Okay, so this, you have to change the time to the same year, month, day, like this. Let's see, is that what it shows up here? No, it's a little different, so I don't want to mislead you. Let's grab this right here. That's what we need. So let's go back into that workflow. Right down here, or right up in here. All right, so this is going to be input start time to string that thing, close it, input end time to string, well, that's fine, in parentheses we'll put that, and that should do it. So if we look at this, yeah, we do it to string. Okay, start time, we're converting the way that looks so that we have start time and end time. That'll put in there just fine. We've got it to a lead or a contact. And then this is going to be not tasks, but meeting. Is it actually called meetings? It might be called events. Let's see. Well, it says meetings here. The way to check that is go back. Meetings is called events. So if you had put meetings, it would be wrong. Wrong. Just kidding, not your fault. Zoho does this sometimes. They change things up. Okay. Event title, description, we've got the start time, end time, who it's for, and let's update this. All right, let's create one now. Oh, let's go back. We forgot the condition. Field type is type here equals meeting. Boom. All right. Saved, done. Let's go ahead and add it. I'm gonna look at this. Let's get rid of the meeting that we had here. Boom. Gone. Okay, let's go ahead and add a new one. Here's meeting for that same person. Test meeting. Test start time is going to be the 22nd. 12:30 is fine. Here, the 22nd, and we're going to increase it by an hour. Submit. We didn't have any info on it, so let's go ahead and go to meetings and see if it's been added. And here it is right here. Test meeting, that's the one we just did, 12:30 to 1:30 on the 22nd for this particular person. So that worked. Okay, now let's go ahead and check it for contact as well. Task, contact for Chris, test. We already know the description. Well, actually, we'll check the description. That should work. Let's go over here to task again. I didn't put a description on this one. Let's go check on this one. Come on. You're not going to... yeah, okay, so description works. The most recent one, related to, that didn't pull in. Huh, okay, all right. Right, should have pulled a contact in, so let's see what's going on with that one. Workflow. It's good these little errors come up, that way you can kind of check for yourself, think for yourself. SE modules, what ID, contact, let's go too long. So maybe that's what's missing here. We'll try it again. That could be the issue. So again, it's good that actually we have these little things pop up. That way you can kind of diagnose it for yourself. All right, let's do, that was a task for contact. Let's grab the same contact, Chris. You have to have a subject. So that's probably should be made mandatory. And so we'll do that in a second. Due date, we'll do Monday. All right, let's go take a look. Tasks. Still didn't add it for that person. All right, what's going on? I might have to put on pause. Hold on a sec. And we're back. Okay, so I don't know if it left with an error message. It probably didn't, but now I was able to get it to work successfully. Okay, so this is what we did, is I went into the workflow, and I said, okay, what's going on with this workflow? Because it should work. So one thing that was I had to adjust was if the lead is not null. Before we had it with these quotations, so we need to do null and null up here actually as well. Okay, that was first, because what it was doing is pulling in the leads here for some reason. And I think it's just because an alternative to the quote unquote, now if we have programmers, developers, whatever that know this better than I, again, I'm just more of a salesperson, more kind of down to earth, and have done this by necessity, as I make mistakes, no doubt. If the quotes don't work, I'll use null, and it seemed like it worked in this case. Okay, so lead is not equal to null is leads, and this is, remember I was talking about the what ID? Well, it comes to find out, again, I got them backwards. The contact is the who ID. So when I tried to use that same SE module contacts what ID to the contact, it said that wasn't right. So let's go ahead and update this real quick. So that was the changes I made. And the way I went through the diagnosis of it is I went through MP, so I could see what was showing up as that map, and that's where it was showing up leads, and then the what ID was wrong. And so then I found that, fixed that, and then went to RESP again, and that then told me that the what ID was wrong with the SE module contacts, and so I changed that, and then I was able to diagnose. It was a few minutes, I just didn't want to bore you with it. But that's basically the steps I went through. Okay, done, access the application. Let's go ahead and add that task again for a contact. And so it should work. Here's the log details. That looks good. That's successful. And we'll get rid of that log again. But let's go to tasks. And here it is, TRDT, and it's tied to Chris Merrier. Okay, now let's do a meeting for the same person. Oh, you know what? I'll probably have to check meetings, make sure that's done right. Let's look at meetings. Meeting right here. Let's look at, we'll change again, the lead and the contact is not null because we needed that to work. Down here we need to change this to also null and also null, and then we're going to change, that's fine, the leads, and what we learned is we cannot have a what ID down here. This is going to be a who ID. All right, so let's go ahead and close that. Test this one out. Meeting, contact for that person, test. We'll do it again for the 21st. Let's do that. 21st, add an hour to it, submit. Should work fine. Let's look at meetings. And here's the one I just added for Chris. And so that worked fine. 12:45, 1:45, all that looks good. Okay, perfect. So the last thing we're going to do is then if there's an update, let's say you're updating the due date or the calendar date, let's say that. Okay, so I'm going to put on pause for a second, just take a breather. Okay, now let's create the updates. So edit this application. Again, you probably know where to go, right? By this point, workflow. We can create a new workflow, and it's a calendar item when it's edited. Let's see. Yeah, let's do an update of a field because we'll just do it based on the date. You can probably get the logic here if anything else changes, like the subject or description, how you can change those. But we're just going to do primarily on the date because that's on a calendar. That's what would move primarily. So we're going to update on that just to keep this kind of condensed a little bit because it's already kind of gone over. Choose the field. So the field is going to be the start time. So let's update CRM. Update CRM. Let's just call it that. Okay. So now the intent here is you moved something on the calendar from one date to another date, regardless if it's a task or a meeting. So based on this, again, we can add the conditional later, which is going to be if it's a task, do this. If it's a meeting, do that. But I think because we're basing it on the update of a start time and both of them have it already, I think what we'll do is say, because if it's a task, we have to update the due date based on that task, and then we would send it. Yeah, so maybe we'll split it into two. So let's get, oh, you know what? One thing I didn't do. Aha, this is good. Okay. And you probably saw this already. You're like, what about the CRM ID that we talked about? Yes, you are right. Calendar item created. Right, we have the two different ones here. One thing I did not do is get that CRM ID and put it back into the system here. So equals RESP get ID. Very important part, because we can't do updates unless we do that. So let's add that here, and then we're going to add it down here too. There we go. And I think I got rid of that input as well while we're at it. Okay, so now we can't do any updates yet unless we add new ones. So we're going to have to do that first. But anyway, I'm glad that I remember that. You probably were wondering early on, and if you could ask questions during this thing, if it was live, then you would have said, hey, what about the CRM ID? Okay, so at least that's fixed now. So update of a field, update the CRM. We need to grab that task. So let's get task equals Zoho CRM get record by ID. So we're going to go tasks, and we're going to get the input CRM ID. And to do that, I have to do that again, that too long. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, so I'm going to get that task. We're going to do MP again, which is add a map. MP.put. So you remember what put is, right? It's actually putting into that record. I think, yeah, I should be able to. Let's do due date equals input start time. Okay, so we're going to put into the due date. And you remember where to go to check the API to make sure it's right. Okay, due date. Yeah, okay. And RSP equals Zoho CRM update record. It's going to be tasks. It's going to be input CRM ID too long. And then the last thing is going to be the MP. Info RSP. That's going to make sure that we get the feedback that it worked. This one is just for tasks. So let's go ahead and say the type is task. Save criteria. All right. So this one should be good to go. We've got to add a new one first, and then we can come back. So let me go ahead and clear out those old ones because they're not relevant anymore. And go to tasks and clear out the ones we did there. Testing, testing, goodbye. Okay, come back here, and we're going to add a new task for a lead. And we're going to set this one for, let's say today. Why not? Okay, so we've got that. We did the test on the task, right? So let's go ahead and look at tasks. We got that one for the 17th due date. Let's go to the calendar. Oh, great. I didn't delete anything here. So let's delete all of them except for the last one I did, which is, yep, this one has the CRM ID, so you can see that clearly. All right, so now I'll go back to the calendar. You can see here's the calendar. I'm going to move this to the 21st. Expected data type date. Okay, so because it's a date, so this is good. I'm glad we did this. So edit the application. We're going to go back into that workflow right here. And we need to change the due date to date. Date. Because right now it's in a date time. So this should work. We'll try this, and if it doesn't work, then again I'll exit for a minute or two and see what's going on. Okay, so I move it there. Perfect. That's a good sign, right? Modified, it worked good. So it went from the 17th to 22nd. So it's 17th right now. If I refresh this, it shows the 22nd now. So that's all we needed to do. Okay, so that works fine. Excellent. Okay, so workflow, we've got that. Now it's easier with the meetings because it's pretty much already a start and end time. All right, update, go here, and this one we're just going to paste. It's not going to be tasks though, right? Oh, it was events, CRM long, start time. We don't need to do the due date part. So this is going to be, let's check over here. What was it again in the APIs? It was like start date time or something. Let's look at this. Right there. Right there. All right. Oh, that's fun. And ugly. Okay. We don't need to do this. We're just going to say straight up input start time. That should work just fine. MP put, I'm probably pretty sure this would be similar. input end time. Again, we're going to be updating events. CRM ID to long. Yeah, I don't even need to get task input CRM data long. Yeah, I think that's all we need to do. Yeah, I actually don't even need this part of it up here. And that should, I don't want the risk, we don't want that to pop up. I mean, you could if you're testing it, but I think we're pretty good at this point. The code worked before. All right, let's go here, and this should wrap it up. So just a couple minutes away. Meeting, set criteria. Let's go up here and change this info so it's not going to pop up again. Update, cancel, done. All right, you know what? I'm going to probably show one more thing. So just give a couple more minutes. It's going to be about the colorization. So separating tasks from your meetings so they look different. And then just to show you the conditional that you can do. So if there's different types or subtypes or something, then you can do colors to the calendar, which is huge because you don't have it on the regular one. Okay, let's get through this real quick. What was I doing? I'm going to add a meeting, right? We're going to add a meeting. I'm going to do it for a contact just for giggles. Test. Start time. We're going to say it's Monday. And we'll do Monday again. And we're going to say, oh, let's go 13. All right, so that should show up in meetings. Don't call me a liar. 20th, 12:45, 1:45. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the calendar and change it. Now, I might as well show you this too. So if we look at the week, not this week, but next week. And so you can see, oh, that's set at 12:45 to 13:45. Let's go ahead and I'm going to change that to 4 o'clock. Well, I guess 15:45. So this should, if I click on this again, you're going to call me a liar. Well, that was fun. Okay, so let's add the the info again, just so you can see what the hell's going on. Okay, so in meeting, let's see why that didn't update. Boy, I'm glad this is a kid-friendly show because I'd be saying a couple words right now. Okay, so this, go next. Date, time. I have to convert it again. Of course I do. Yeah, why wouldn't I? Okay, so let's go ahead and grab on the creation side of it what that looked like, and we have to do the same thing again when we're updating it, which I guess makes sense. But let's go ahead and grab it real quick. This shit right, this stuff right here. I don't know why these systems can't talk to each other. It's like it's the same company, but whatever. Now I'm just bitching. Excuse me. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing here. Start time, end time. Input, start time, end time. Okay, so we should be good now. Let's try this again. But again, this is good that you watched through this. I know it's taking a little time, but you could definitely, you're building your skills with Creator at this point by going through this exercise and checking things and when things don't work, etc. So let's go ahead and check for next week. Let's move this to 9 o'clock. And it's modified, so that means it worked fine, and it should be good over here too. Yep, 8:45 to 9:45. Okay. It is really odd that it's not letting me. It's not like they're half an hour times. It should move. Anyways, I'm not going to look into that on this particular lesson. Let's do the colorization real quick, just to identify a task versus a. So right now, if I hover over that, you can see it says task lead. If I hover over that, it says meeting. But we're going to add some conditional coloring to it real quick, since we're a few minutes into this. Let's go here to report properties. You can see here event formatting. We're going to put one of them, so selected records, the type equals task, save. We're going to add another one, And if it's a meeting, we're going to do it green. So selected records, type equals meeting. Save, we're good. Let's go to access the application. Go to that calendar, and you'll see now clearly between the two, you've got that conditional formatting. You could add much more formatting to this. Oh, one last thing, which is really, really important, is how to add this as a web tab into your CRM. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm in meetings. I'm in the CRM, and we're going to add this real quick. Let's go to modules and fields. Let's go to web tabs. Let's add a new web tab. We're going to call it calendar. We're going to do links. And here's calendar right here. Save. And we should be able to see that calendar. So if I click here, we can see that embedded calendar in your CRM. So now we just want to maybe move it so it's somewhere else. Let's organize modules. Let's grab that calendar down here. We're going to move it on up and put it right there under home, next to home. So there it is. Boom. It's calendar. Now you've got a calendar here. If you add an item, if you click on this, that you click on any date there, I say task. Let's go ahead and add another one for Mickey. And we'll set this for today. Submit. Go back to that calendar. You can see Mickey task. If I click on that, you can see the details. I can click on Mickey, and it goes right into that record for Mickey, and it shows here's a task that's open for Mickey today. So I hope that's helpful. Again, click the like, subscribe, add a comment that you loved it, or if you did and you thought it was a piece of shit, sorry, you didn't like it, it was too long, I messed up too many times, please put that in there too. You could thumbs down for all I care too. I think that helps. But hopefully it was helpful for you, because I think these building blocks are very helpful to you understanding more of how you can do things yourself, teaching you to fish. Have a great day.